Welcome to Chai Pe Kharcha, where we have conversations on personal finance among four NRI professionals working at tech firms. Think of these like water cooler chats you have at the office. Only this time, you will have Ishaan, Madhvesh, Rohit, and Siddharth as colleagues you will be listening into. Before we get started, a quick disclaimer. We are not financial experts. The content provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Always consult with a qualified financial professional if you need financial advice.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Chai Pe Kharcha. We only have Siddharth and me today. So we will start with a very interesting topic about kids. Sid, you're the only one in the group right now who has kids. And therefore we have important questions around how do you plan for them? How do you plan your finances around them? And hopefully you can give us some guidance on it. So I'll start with a very basic question, maybe even before the finances part. How do you know you're ready for the financial responsibility of having a kid?
So yeah, there's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer. I think more than the financial responsibility, it is more of a social factor. At least was in my case.
It's time.
It's time because you need to have energy जब वो बच्चा बढ़ रहा हो, you need to be able to run around with him, which actually I would support that today because you just need a lot of energy for young kids to be able to play around with them. So there's some truth to it. But in terms of finances, I don't think you'll ever be, yeah, you can do the calculations and you can say, yeah, हाँ, इतना हो गया, so I am ready. But you're never ready with the kind of things that will come your way. I think you're never ready.
Once you dive into it because you said social factors. एक बार you're like, ठीक है, now I have to have a kid because it's the right time for us to start a family. Was there anything that surprised you? And again, because we are a personal finance podcast, we probably focus more on the financial aspect. I'm sure diapers were a big expense and a big mess. But is there anything that surprised you on what you were not prepared for?
The diapers, you wouldn't believe diapers is very expensive. And
I've heard.
I knew that there would be medical bills or yes, of which they were. Something I didn't expect was like, you have to have so many diapers और उसमें आप simultaneously ये भी सुन रहे हो कि जो जो वो ad आती थी ना हगीज की कि वो एक लेडी रहती है उसकी माँ बोलती है अरे कपड़ा कपड़ा यूज कर डायपर मत यूज कर और वो हंस देती है अरे nappy में भी हैप्पी है बच्चा डायपर यूज करना चाहिए but then now you hear the philosophy कि actually कपड़ा ही better है
You're going back to the old times.
old times हाँ तो, yeah diapers is the expensive piece and then as the child grows education वगैरह which is more expected so diapers precisely diapers also toys to an extent actually let me add toys also तो आप सोचते हो when your kid is growing up कि मैं ना उसको बहुत खिलौने नहीं दिलाऊंगा क्योंकि पैसे की कीमत समझानी है और ये वो then toys sort of become a reliever कि वो he's wanting a lot of energy है और कुछ तो उसको चाहिए आप टीवी भी दिखा दिखा के थक गए हो और बोलते अच्छा चल चल शांत हो जाए ये टॉय ले ले मेरे को आधा घंटा सांस लेने दे always it is as little as half an hour because if you keep buying toys uh, they lose the value of it and वो आधे घंटे की टाइम रहता है उसका आधे घंटे में unless you make them play with the toy they will be bored it's the next toy.
And did you ever consider getting a helper or getting a nanny to help you manage the child in the camp? How do you expense for that?
No, that's also one that was sort of expected. We never considered, and this depends on individual philosophy, so there's no right or wrong. We were pretty sure कि बच्चे के साथ टाइम स्पेंड करने की responsibility is ours. यानी no matter how busy we are, we will be there. We'll be the ones seeing him grow, teaching him things and things like that. We did enlist a helper, but not so to do the other things. Safai, not to spend time with. वो हम- But that's also expensive.
So you went for health insurance for the child early on, or was that like, is that part of the parents' plan only? Is there something separate you need to buy, or
I need that's a good point also. Fortunately, we've been part of companies that do provide insurances for all the dependents. So my child was covered in that health insurance and still covered with the company. But if your company does not do that, I would strongly urge and encourage you to buy insurance, especially in places outside India, because the expenses can rack up very fast. This once the child starts going to preschool or daycare, वो हर 2 हफ्ते में वो कोई नई बीमारी लेकर आएगा. There's a lot of memes also around it कि ये
yeah,
नया वायरस कौन सा है मार्केट में, हमको पता है हमारा बच्चा लेकर आया है. Then it'll happen तो वो खुद भी बीमार होगा और फिर आपको भी बीमार करेगा हर 2-3 हफ्ते में. तो उस हिसाब से you have to be prepared insurance.
daycares are the epicenter of any new virus that comes, because
Yeah.
one kid will get it, और फिर एक-एक करके सबको होना शुरू होगा, and then parents will start getting it. But yeah, it's good. You guys are ahead of the curve. You get to know पहले की मार्केट में नया क्या है.
हाँ, यू गेट इम्यून ऑल्सो पहले, राइट. कोविड में भी ये बड़े हमने मजे लिए थे. हमें ऑलमोस्ट लग रहा था कि वैक्सीन की जरूरत ही नहीं है, हम इतनी बार गुजर गए हैं उससे.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling. But so now that you have to at some point start preparing for giving your child. And I want to ask the question to one is obviously educating your child finances. तो उनको सिखाना, like you said, पैसे की क्या value है. And everything that I am able to give you is because I worked hard for that money to be able to give you. You will have to also work hard to get these things. ये अपने आप नहीं आता रहेगा. So that is one part. You need to teach the kid, the value of money. The second part is you need to also, because हम Indian parents हैं, जब तक की बहुत जरूरत ना हो,
Yeah.
the kid should never have to go ask for money or get a loan or something. So we'll want to make the kid financially secure. We'll want to prepare for their education. So these are two aspects I really want to slightly, dive deeper into. You can pick which one you want to start with first, and we'll ask some more questions there.
So let me start with me teaching my child the value of money, because that happens at a earlier age and that continues
Yeah.
throughout. What I've observed, at least so far, and my son is very young, so मैं बहुत experienced parent तो नहीं हूँ, जितना मैंने देखा है, पर तो मैंने खुद एक्सपीरियंस किया विद माय पेरेंट कि इट इट्स वन थिंग टीचिंग देम कि वही पैसे की वैल्यू करो और सोच के खर्चे करो पैसे, ये सब. इट्स वन थिंग शोइंग इट इन योर बिहेवियर. तो शोइंग इट इन योर बिहेवियर इज द बेस्ट टीचिंग दे गेट. तो आप उनको 10 बार बोल दो कि भाई पैसे की वैल्यू करो, ये करो, फिर आप उनको हर 3 दिन बाद अगर खिलौना लेके दे रहे हो, दे विल नेवर they will follow the खिलौना लेने वाला behavior and not follow the advice you are saying कि इसकी. मैं उसको खाने के टाइम पे भी बहुत बार कोई खाना बाहर से कुछ खाने को दिला दिया और उसने आधा छोड़ दिया, तो मैं उसको फिर ज्ञान दे रहा हूँ कि मत वो करो. बट इफ यू आर लीविंग इट देन they'll say yeah,
They
वो
learn
सिखा
from
रहे हैं
what
ये
they
खुद ही.
see. Yeah.
They learn from what they see. That's the best in my experience. That's the best teacher. And so you have to adopt your behavior, to modify your behavior, to teach them principles. That's one. The question आपका उनकी education.
So in इसी के अंदर, so I have one more. I know this may seem like it's further into the future, so maybe you haven't thought of it yet. But just to brainstorm on this one. See, one thing when we discussed in our early episodes also was कि हमारे schooling system के अंदर या हमारे, at least for my parents, they never taught me the value of, they obviously taught me the value of money. Money is important and money is not, it's not growing on trees. तुम्हें कमाना पड़ेगा, you'll have to work hard, your education is important for that. And then you have to build your own career, you have to build your own finances. But no one actually spoke about investing, right? No one actually spoke about how does that money multiply? How does that money grow? You can't just do it by your monthly paycheck. At some point, वो खत्म हो जाएगा. Do you plan to, at some point, either educate them on, say, index fund investing or mutual fund investing, or just generally putting your money into somewhere and thinking long term rather than, short term fun with the money? Delayed gratification wala concept.
Definitely, there's no doubt. And that, even that principle of आपने जो बोला delaying gratification and teaching them how you, it also is behavioral teaching. It's not just कि आप वो एक एज पे आ जाएं और उनको बोल दो कि देख मैंने ऐसा म्यूचुअल फंड में डाले थे इतने साल पहले, देख वो कि कितने ग्रो हो गए या वैसा कुछ. आप, it comes through the other things of the core concept is delaying gratification and the value of which they will learn not just from the money angle but from things कि आज आप 5 रसगुल्ले मत खाओ, एक दिन में एक खाओ, ताकि you can enjoy it for 5 days rather than 1 day and that sort of a thing. They will come in all sorts of ways. But yeah, the simple answer to your question, yes, definitely I'd want to tell him. I'm in general, उसको चाय पे खर्चा के बारे में पता है, वो छोटा बड़ा होकर वो ही सुन ले और सीख जाए.
We are leaving a legacy behind for others.
Right.
I also want to plug in something. We had a guest, Gayatri, in the episode in Prague, and she said something very interesting. She said, when I go out with my kids, they contribute. So they know that I am not just there to spend for them. They are getting their pocket money. So if we are going out for a meal, they need to know the value of that meal. I can't take them to a fine dining restaurant and just pay, and they feel like this is my lifestyle. Even if you're going to McDonald's, they should know, okay, you have the option McDonald's and Pizza Hut and Domino's and have it. You pick based on what you can spend. It kind of gives them that thinking, the thought process. She said sometimes they'll only come back and say, let's make it at home. Yeah, I don't want to spend my money on this.
When I heard that, I thought it was fascinating. And yeah, I have not thought about it and not heard anyone do it, but we can implement it. Because implementing it is a much difficult,
it is
much more tougher task.
Yeah.
उनको ये समझाना कि भाई नहीं तो अब तो मेरा बेटा अभी तक छोटा ही है, पर वो आके बोल देता है लेट्स बाय दिस, लेट्स बाय दैट, खरीद लेंगे बाद में देखेंगे.
No, because we also remember, right, growing up, till the time you started money and you were told you have to spend from what you're getting. Our concept of money was कि पापा मम्मी के पास है, कहीं से मैजिकली पैसा आ रहा है,
पेड़ है, उससे निकाल के दिए जा रहे हैं.
जो मुझे नहीं बता रहे कहाँ रखा है उन्होंने, but they have this money plant somewhere where they are just getting this magical money stuff. So I thought that was interesting, and from what you're saying also, key as they keep growing, you also need to start educating them on the stuff. Okay, so on the
but budgeting, I'll just squeeze in one more point. Budgeting also happens in ways outside of money, like I mentioned. One thing that I do with him now, I've ended up introducing him to video games, but we are also teaching him maths and English के स्कूल के लिए. तो जैसे मैं उसको भी एडिशन वगैरह सिखा रहा हूँ, तो आई मेक अ डील विद हिम कि भाई तू ये 4 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर ले एडिशन के, तेरे को 5 मिनट मिल जाएंगे. देन वो फिर ही इज ऑल्सो, उसमें वो भी नेगोशिएशन भी सीख गया है उसमें. वो आके बोलता है नहीं चलो 3 में 4 मिनट कर लेते. तीन में 4 मिनट, 3 में 2 मिनट, things like that, which which are also very can be employed in money management as it goes.
And these are good life skills. He'll have to negotiate salaries at some point. ये भी चलेगा.
Correct, correct. Very
Uh,
cool.
so on the piece of to save for his future or to invest for his future, there's obviously lots of marketing and there's lots of plans out there. Okay, you start saving now. As soon as you have a kid, you start putting some money aside into a fund. When they're 18, you get a certain corpus of money. Like, so people start doing FDs in the name of their child. People start doing a lot of different things, right? What are the
Right.
things that you are like? Are there life events that you are saving up for, or are there? Do you have? Again, I want to be clear. The child obviously gets to decide a lot of things as they grow old. But as parents,
True.
we need to also have plans. Ki we will educate our kid in a certain place, in a certain. We want like if I was to do everything all over again, I might do my masters or my uh, bachelor's outside of India just to get that one experience, and then opportunities also open up, in a different way. So, is that something you've thought of? Are you planning to save for in a particular way?
हाँ सर, so not from the perspective कि भाई यूएस में कराना है या कोई महंगी जगह पे कराना है, उस perspective से नहीं, but I am one of the financial goals is education. See, also in our country, as you know, marriage amount also is, so एक education एक goal उसमें भी है. These are the two things. But yeah, anyway, I am saving or investing towards that target, not with the mindset कि इंडिया में पड़ेगा कि सिंगापुर में पड़ेगा कि यूएस में पड़ेगा, जहाँ भी पड़े एक अमाउंट ऑफ मनी होना चाहिए जो मैं दे सकूँ, उतने में उसकी होगी तो ठीक है, नहीं हुई तो वो प्लस स्कॉलरशिप लेके कर ले, वही कर सकते हैं.
So, is there anything that, let's say, if I have a kid, I don't have a break, what would be an advice you would give for me to, start off with from a financial perspective to start off with? Is there something you'd say like old style FDs बना के रखो उनके लिए ताकि, or would you say some funds or just keep it in cash? You don't know what's going to happen in the future.
It said for kid, it's similar to any other financial goal. So I don't know if you should think about it differently to any other financial goal. What you're doing for other goals, do the same. But add one more goal is what you can do. Because there will be expense. But a lot of, you discussed that also in the past, I think a lot of countries have declining population for this reason. People are not, they just, inflation is so high, expenses are so high, they are not imagining कि भाई बच्चा होने के बाद इसका खर्चा कैसे उठाएंगे.
Oh, but
जापान वगैरह में जे.
even Singapore's population is not growing as fast as they would like.
Yeah,
And for the same reason,
do that.
parents,
Right.
couples find it very hard to plan for a child financially more than anything else. And we, in any case, are seeing this thing of people delaying having the child from having it in their 20s to now having it in their 30s because they want to get to a certain level of financial stability. And like we said right at the beginning of the episode, you never really feel financially stable enough.
Never. Yeah. But I'll flip the questions to you. More specifically, the ones on how when you have a kid, how would you want to teach him or her about finances? And if you have a alternate thought process in terms of education and the investments that you will do for education, then what I mean.
So I think, and I haven't necessarily been through this, so all this is theoretical from my side, right? Practically,
Right.
kya hota hai when you actually have the kid, life changes. But my thought process on the kids' education was, at least initially before they hit their teens, it needs to be kind of gamified, just like you were saying, you're negotiating on video game time versus this. But it needs to be gamified in a way where they understand that money is something and money is important in whatever you know. because you end up spending money, you end up spending time. You need to learn the value of these two things. So you need to do it in a way where you it's still fun for the kid, but they're getting the inherent concept of it. And I really like what you said of they need to also see you do the same things, because they like, it's a funny way of putting it, with monkey see, monkey do. So they will see you do something and they will exactly copy whatever you're doing. So you need to not be chindi nahi hone ka, but you need to be reasonable and logical in front of them when you're discussing something financial. But I also feel like there's a point when all kids start feeling like, I am old, I'm grown up now, right? You hit, and normally happens around your teen years. You suddenly start thinking, I'm an adult, why are you not treating me like one? So in my head, my thought process, the day my kid tells me I'm grown up, from that day you start treating them like an adult and actually making them party to financial decisions also. And this is something I learned from my dad. My dad, obviously I had no money, right? But after a certain point when I was in college, or I think after I graduated, he would at least include me in any financial decisions he was making. Just ask my opinion. Just to make me also think that these are things I have to consider. Like if you're buying something, if you're buying a car, for example, it's not just, hey, I went to the bank, took out a bunch of money and bought. There are considerations to it. What car I can buy, how much money, and what impact will it have on other decisions that I will have to make in the rest of the year. So it's important that the kids start seeing some of those things. You don't put pressure on them, obviously. You don't want them to start feeling scared about life, but to actually just feel like, okay, they're treating me like an adult. They're not treating me like I'm an idiot, which I think, at least theoretically, is what I would do in the first 18 years of their life. And then obviously they would be studying. So that's where the education part comes in. Mera thought process, when I look back at my life, I feel like at least one of my degrees I should have done outside. And I felt like, because also I had the capability of being able to go outside and do it. When I gave GMAT, I had a decent score. I could have at that time thought of it, but there were restrictions. I didn't want to spend that kind of money. I didn't want to, this is a few years ago. So you used to have the concept of a free seat and a paid seat in colleges, and it was very different. So now it's
अभी भी तो वही है ना? नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है.
they had changed it. But I think a few years after that, I don't know what it is now, because obviously I haven't been in the education system. They basically said you can't do this as discrimination and the kind of fees paid.
Wow.
But also the business schools, for example, the fees have substantially gone up from the time I graduated. They've now kind of made it parity to what their outgoing salaries are. They also want the fees to be as high. So obviously, education cost has changed in India. So if you're going to end up paying similar money, you maybe also want to consider other colleges outside, which are well renowned and which would open up different opportunities for you. Because एक चीज जो मैंने देखी है is, and this is a grudge I hold. So when I joined a bank, and this is an American bank, I joined it in India after doing an MBA. And I saw graduates in the US joining the bank at a more senior level than I did. So I had younger people. When I was 30 something, 32, I think, and I became a VP. I had someone who was 25 also at a VP in the US. And they probably have had better career growth because they're sitting in the US and they started off at such a higher level than I will. So by the time I am 40, they're already at director level and I'm struggling to get there, or I'm pushing myself. So you have to really work much harder. And obviously, because India में competition भी इतना है कि you don't want to do it, someone else will do it. But outside, you see that the growth is very different and the opportunities are very different. So that is one of the reasons why if my kid wants to go into that field, I'd want to show them that path, also saying it might be better to go out than be here. Again, life could change in 20 years' time. And India might be there where the US is right now. Let's hope that happens. But agar nahi hota, they should be aware of this reality. I wasn't aware of this reality till I got it. My parents did not understand what they didn't know. So they couldn't guide, right? Now we have a little more vision because of what we've seen. So we can also show them that vision, saying, yes, these are options in front of you. So that is one thing and which is where I will have to plan on when I have a kid, that you need to save up enough. Considering inflation also, that even fees outside is going to get inflated, that if they want to go out, ideally they shouldn't have to take a loan to go study outside. And that would not just be tuition, which hopefully they get a scholarship if they don't. You are able to pay for their stay, their travel, their living expenses, everything, which is a decent amount of money. Which is why living outside India actually helps.
Organized.
But nahi to in India, you invest in some really good stocks or funds and you get decent returns over the next 20 years. So you have that kind of money saved just for it. That's a good conversation. Thank you so much. I think it's at least thought-provoking. People who don't have kids or have just had kids or are still thinking about it while they have kids. It'll be good for them to think about all these things also. Thank you so much, Sid.
Thank you. Thank you.